Hey, sorry about this, but I lost the footage of the quick draw. Next time for sure. You know, I find it so fascinating how everyone's so quick to jump onto the Thomas is too old bandwagon, but no one ever brings up how strangely old James is in canon. The Class 28s were built from 1909 to 1912. This would make James both older than Thomas and Toby. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. I'm still a strong believer that the age of the engine doesn't matter for their maturity, but I just don't like the idea of James being older than Toby. I'm sorry. Now, since I'm going to be choosing an alternate basis for James, I thought might as well check the Moguls that actually exist before modifying an 060. I looked at many different classes, but one that stood out to me was the GWR Class 43XX. Honestly, this would make a pretty good alternate take on James. It's an actual Mogul, it's a big enough tender engine that I could see it pulling long goods trains and possibly the Express, and there would be an interesting dynamic with Duck, since they're both Great Western, but James would have none of the Great Western pride that Duck has, so I imagine they would argue a lot about the Great Western way. Pah! And age-wise, this would mean he'd be built in either 1921 or 1922, meaning he's in the same age group as Gordon, and he's still younger than engines like Toby. And now that I've explained why I think this class of engine would be great for James, throw that all out the window, because despite all that, it's just not my James. So, I'm gonna take the lazy route and just make James a one-off build. So, in my AU, James was built in late 1921. The engine was built specifically to help with goods work, since Henry wasn't strong enough to handle it all, and Gordon refused to do it at all. James was given a unique red paint job, which was an inverse of the standard NWR blue. Just like in the television series, James would feature during the events of 3 railway engines and Thomas the Tank Engine, before finally having his iconic crash in a field near the end of Thomas's character arc. As a side note, something I couldn't quite decide on was the color of James's wheels. Traditionally, they are black. This way, your eyes will be focused purely on the paintwork. But part of me kinda likes them being gray, like the old Bachmann models. So, as a compromise, I made his wheels a very dark gray. I will also say, with his wheel color in mind, depending on how you interpret it, it makes his comments about Edward being a, quote, black wheel, end quote, during the strikes, a bit ironic. Beyond this, the James I imagine is a pretty traditional take on the character. Some stories might be a little different, particularly James and the Diesels, but overall, that's James. There's not much to change. After all, how do you improve such a splendid engine? I hope you've enjoyed my takes. I wanted to present both a radically different James and a more traditional take on the character to suit both of your fancies. Let me know what other characters you'd like me to adapt. Currently, I'm planning on making my ideal take on Henry next. But until then, I hope you all have a good day.